All right. Let's watch Dave Ramsey. Let's watch Trump on Dave Ramsey because he will be the one to ask Trump the right questions when it comes to his plans to bring back America to its feet financially. We're struggling, y'all. It's rough out here. It is rough. Inflation is eating away at every dollar that we're making. And if you're in the middle class, like most of America is, you're suffering. And there's a lot of people who are just hiding. Well, I wouldn't say hiding. They're making it work in their own way. Everyone's trying to make it work. Uh, there are a lot of hardworking Americans out there that are overpaying for our government's mistakes. We're overtaxed out here in California. Let's see what Trump's got to say about this. Let's watch this interview. I'm interested.
Financial victories, stuff we've taught them to do, the basic grandma's common sense stuff.
Right.
And that audience that's going to be watching this they're not concerned with a lot of things, but they are concerned with $8 eggs, $5 gas, 7% interest rates, and a house they can't afford with wages not going up as fast as house prices.
Right.
This inflation thing's a big deal. So in the first 90 days, the strokes that you make to change the economy when you're elected are a big deal. What's the first things you're going to do on that?
Well, in terms of inflation, you're right. And it's almost inflation over the economy, if you want to really know, because people are getting wiped out like never before. I think it's the highest inflation we've ever had. They say it's the highest in 48 years. I think it's the highest ever. There's never been any mess like this, and it's because of what they did with energy. Also, then they topped it with spending with money, that trillions and trillions of dollars that they didn't need, that's being just wasted. But the first thing you have to do is get the energy down. If you get the energy down, other things are going to follow. You want to get the interest rates down too. And interestingly, even interest rates are going to follow energy because it's going to take that burden off the shoulders of the economy and off the shoulders of inflation itself. And we are going to drill at a level that you haven't seen since, let's say, 4 or 5 years ago. But even more so, we would have been so dominant by this point. If you remember, when you go back to the beginning of this really failed administration that we're in right now, what they did was they turned off the energy. They turned off everything that I had built.
So you turn back on the Keystone. You're going to turn back on the drill baby drill line in your acceptance speech at the convention.
Sure. It says it all. You know, I'd like to use another line, but there's no line that's better. And we're going to drill baby drill. But the fact that they turned it off and then the energy, if you look back at the very initial period of their administration, the numbers started going through the roof, the energy numbers. Inflation was good. And then they went back to Trump where they're trying to equal it. And it kept it bad as opposed to horrific. And it's been really bad. And the energy has been very expensive, but nothing like it could have been. So they went back to Trump type things. But we would have been now 3 to 4 times more. We would have been dominating the entire world on energy. We have more than anybody else, as you've heard me say, but as you also know.
Right.
We have, I call it liquid gold. We have more liquid gold under our feet than anybody else. Actually, by far, we would have dominated. We would have been taking care of Europe.
I'm curious if anyone has actually quantified the amount of oil that we have here in America compared to Saudi Arabia and any of these other oil exporting giants. It sounds like there's a lot, but there's not a lot of people talking about it.
We would have been taking care of Asia. We would have been taking care, Anwar in Alaska is the biggest find anywhere in the world. It could be as big as Saudi Arabia. And I got it. Ronald Reagan couldn't get it. Nobody could get it. I got it. It was done, ready to start. And when these people came in, they turned it off. They terminated it. Nobody could believe it.
I don't know if people realize that 10 to 15% of the entire economy is energy,
right,
and it weaves its tentacles through everything else. So $5 gas affects the bread truck who's delivering the bread, and that affects the cost of the bread then. And so getting that plentiful changes everything.
So I have a little thing that I've been saying lately because I think it's easily achievable. we pay very high energy costs, and especially now, but we're paying very, very high. I believe I'll be able to get energy down to 50%, 50% of what it is right now within a period of less than a year.
Wow.
That's pretty good. It's going to happen fast, okay? It's going to happen fast.
Well, what are you going to do to do that? What causes that?
They're going to drill. They're going to frack. They're going to do things that they
If it doesn't take that long to recover, just from what he's saying, it's going to happen fast. I wonder why they've never done it this long. There's been multiple administrations that have come and gone and made promises during their campaign. But then when it comes to this energy crisis, it always seems like no one knows what to do. Or at best, they just don't do anything. And the status quo where we're importing oil at very high prices, which naturally leads to high energy costs for consumers. That doesn't make sense if we're sitting on that much oil. So I'm interested to hear more of what Trump has to say about it.
have tremendous
So taking the regs off, taking the regulations off.
we have to. They put them back on. They put regulations back on that areas that have no environmental real meaning, they don't let them drill. They're taking leases away, government leases that you.
And the regulation
We have to. They put them back on. They put regulations back on that areas that have no environmental real meaning, they don't let them drill. They're taking leases away, government leases that you're hearing about. I think we can get energy costs down to half of what they. If we do that,
that's pretty dramatic.
Everything, all of those inflated prices are going to come down with it.
I think the other piece of that, and I know he was part of your administration, and you and I were talking before we turned the cameras on, that we have a mutual friend in Art Laffer.
And
I know he helped a little bit with the tax code in the last administration. And I personally have experienced the Laffer curve, that lower taxes causes increased revenues to the federal government because it heats up the economy. And I'm a small business guy. When you lower my taxes, it doesn't mean I put it in my pocket. It means I hire people. And so talk about lowering taxes in the first year of your administration.
Yeah, you probably saw my plan, and I think we have something really good. I was yesterday in North Carolina, which is great. That was the furniture capital of the world. And China then went in and did a number and took so much of that business, most of that business, the talent. I used to go there to buy furniture for hotels and things.
Hickory, North Carolina.
Yep, in Hickory. I was in Hickory yesterday and made a speech.
In this
and we're going to bring it all back. What we're doing is there's sort of a two-phase. Number one, I took taxes from 39% to 21%. You know that better than anyone. It's the largest tax cut in the history of our country. And that was great. That's why we became so successful.
It's funny. We can do that again.
Yeah, I think we can go lower. And I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm bringing it from 21 to 15, but you have to manufacture your product here.
Yes.
And then you pay 15%. And then I'm going to put tariffs on countries so they can't come in and steal our business, so that our businesses now can be competitive. Not that, China came in and
this is what a candidate who has a plan sounds like. This is completely different from anything we've heard from Kamala Harris. This guy, you can tell, has run a country before. At minimum, has run a successful business. He's got a plan, and he's able to articulate it.
Just stole all our furniture and many other industries, by the way, including steel. And I saved steel by putting 50% and 100% tariffs on all of the steel that they were dumping. But we're going to do, so in other words, this is a dream for you then. We're bringing a tax rate from 21. Remember, it was 39, and it was really 50 if you add state and local and all of the other things. So we're going to bring it down from 21 to 15. I got it down to 21, which everyone said was impossible, and got it approved by Congress. So it's, it's there. And we're going to bring that down to 15, but you have to make your product in the United States.
Yeah. And we do see federal revenues go up when the taxes go down because the economy goes.
You saw it with me.
So we saw it with Reagan, too.
You saw it with Reagan. So at 39%, and then down to 21%, you would think would do half, or you'd do much less. In the first full year, we did much more revenue in the United States than we did at 39. In other words, we took in much more money.
Which is how you solve the deficit. I mean, Bill Clinton almost balanced the budget with the exact same
Yes, right.
principle.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. He did. And cost cutting.
Yeah.
We have plenty of cost cutting to do too, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's
In fact,
definitely.
I'm going to ask Elon, who's a great guy, but he's a pretty good.
That was a great
cost-cutter.
interview.
Yeah. Oh, that was a great interview.
Yeah, it was.
That was some interview. We did pretty big numbers. I hear we did like 900 million people or something. That was a pretty good. But he's a great guy, and he gave me a full endorsement and all of that. But he's got a good sense on that. There's tremendous cost cutting that we can do, and affect.
And everybody knows this. Like, it seems like the federal government is where you go to work and not do anything. Just working for the government, period. There's a lot of bureaucracy, laziness in the government. And if they can trim that fat even by a fraction, they're going to see efficiency pick up. I don't see why it should take so long to introduce new technology in government. I work for the government by proxy, but it's like there's so much that can be improved on, make the government more efficient, make it work for the people, the taxpayers. We pay the government, but it doesn't seem to work for us.
Nothing. We're not going to affect anybody. We're not going to hurt anybody. We have to save Social Security and keep it good and solid. I don't want to be raising ages or anything. I don't want to do. They're putting migrants into Social Security. When they get finished, they are. If she got elected, this country is going bust. If she got elected, we're going back to 1929 depression. It would be a disaster for Medicare, Social Security. They're allowing millions and millions of people to come in. You can't use these schools anymore. The quality of life in this country has gone so bad because of what they've done.
One of the things that our viewers know about us, we work with tens of thousands of small business people. And so coaching them, 54% of the gross domestic product is businesses 500 people or less.
Yeah.
Almost everyone in America, over half, almost 60% of people work for a small business. And I know small businesses are where jobs come from, not from government. So politicians don't create jobs; small businesses do.
Business
kind of pisses people like me off when when the politicians say they're ones making the jobs. We're the ones making the jobs. But when you guys in government can take your hands off of small business and allow us to do our thing, we're able to employ people and change things. So how can you help small businesses?
Well, the best way is just letting them do what they have to do, but we still have to give them a playing field. If we don't give them a level playing field, they will die. And that's what happened before. That's why China came in. That's why they came in, and they came in at a level like nobody's ever seen, and we did nothing about it. So the word tariff to me is a very beautiful word because it can save our country, truly. And yet, I think because of graft, because of a lot of consulting payments and other things that are given by other countries, we have so much fighting with politicians on using it. I saved our steel industries by putting tariffs on steel that China came in and dumped. And you know what they do? They dump and dump and dump. Everybody goes out of business. Then they buy those businesses very cheap, and then they raise the prices to higher than they ever were. That's one of the many benefits that they have if they want to do it. But by putting tariffs on, as an example, in the furniture business in North Carolina, it was so vibrant, and they stole our business. And they charge us, if you wanted to build a furniture place, if you want to sell your furniture in China, they won't take it. But if you want to build a plant in China to make furniture in China, using their labor,
very smart,
they open it. We're doing the same thing. But a lot of people are, oh, well, we don't want to have tariffs. The country was at the richest point in its history in the 1890s. It was all tariffs. If you looked at William McKinley as an example, he was a big tariff president. They had committees that were put in charge of what to do with the money. We were taking in so much money. And McKinley would say, why should we let other people come in and steal our factories and steal our workers and steal our jobs?
Right.
And why shouldn't we benefit? And he tariffed the other countries. And we made so much, and then they went to the income tax system later on. But they would actually they had a blue ribbon committee. Our country was so rich, they didn't know what to do with the money. And this blue ribbon committee was set up to determine how can we spend all of this money, and they took it in through tariffs. But we can turn our country around, make it strong, and then guard it with tariffs.
Yeah. Switch gears for a second. My wife.
This is really interesting to listen to. Even just listening to Trump, I'm learning so much about the economy and how it functions. I think this election is very clear who we need to vote for, because I don't not there's a we're at an emergency, whether it's global geopolitics, the economy of the country, the state of well-being of the population. We're at an emergency, and we need someone who has a plan, who's able to articulate their plan, who even makes references, historical references. You heard the man. That's really interesting that he understands that historically tariffs have worked, not income tax. I don't know how you can tax your labor force. We're the ones working, and yet the government is just constantly imposing these taxes on us. It's like they don't want us to work. It's like incentivizing people to be lazy and stay off the job workforce. So that's why you have this, inflation at the extremes, where you have super poor people and homeless people, and then super wealthy people. So the middle is completely eroded out. The country is it's not sustainable. How? How is that going to work? Small business is not incentivized. The first year of a small business is the most critical year, and yet you can't get any loan factors. You can't get any loan tools. They don't give us money. When you start a business, it's like you gotta go through all this red tape to get money, and they don't even give you. They want a personal guarantee to the owner of the business. That's discouraging. Most people are gonna go, well, I don't know if this business is gonna thrive. Why would I risk my personal credit to take that chance? And that's why they stay in the workforce at dead end jobs when they could be out here building the future for the rest of us. It's crazy. Like, where is the common sense, people?
Sharon and I were in Scotland 2 weeks ago, and we played a bunch of different courses there, including Turnberry.
Good.
Which arguably, according to the golf guys I was playing with, is the nicest course in the UK right now. And certainly the Half House, the Lighthouse out
Isn't
there.
that good?
Turnberry is amazing.
Yeah.
But what I came away with, not only is the golf course great, just to give you a huge compliment,
Thank you.
you know that, but the staff and the team, the excellence in the hotel, in the restaurants, in the golf shop, everybody we dealt with. Talk about what it's like to work for Donald Trump. How do you hire leaders and put people in place that do that? Because I know you're obviously not there personally managing that, but you put a culture in place in your organization, and that applies to the administration as well, hiring people that are quality leaders.
Well, my son, Eric, is very much involved, and he runs a lot of it. And Don helps out a lot. And Ivanka, to a lesser extent, she's a great mother and everything. She did a fantastic job in the administration. All she wanted to do is get people jobs. And she'd go around and see Exxon and see Walmart. She wanted jobs for people. It's really pretty amazing. She could have had a very glamorous job, and she would have done well. But Eric's done a great job. And I did a similar type of job when I was doing it. Now I'm doing a thing called running for president, so I don't get. But we rebuilt Turnberry. Turnberry was considered one of the greatest courses in the world because the land is so incredible, right, with the ocean, and that ninth hole you're hitting over the ocean. How good a golfer are you?
13.
All right, that's
not great. I'm just learning. I've only been playing 5 years. I'm just learning.
Oh really?
Yeah. Enjoyed you and Bryson's 50.
Wasn't that
was
great?
fun. That was a great video.
That one did well in terms of the ratings.
It did. He can swing a club.
He can swing, and he's a great guy. And he is very long, very straight. And you know what? He's a great putter.
Yeah.
One of the best putters. He's one of the best putters in the world.
This is the thing about politicians and this speaking that I'm starting to learn. You can extend a conversation. He asked the question. He's not addressed the question yet, but he just kind of goes off in these tangents. And I think it keeps the listener entertained and maybe even confused, and so they don't bother even they forget the original question.
Well, that was quite an exciting thing. We got it down to 50.
You actually pulled one hole off. I watched it.
Yeah,
It
well,
all
yeah,
rode on you. You carried one
even
in.
more than one hole if you want to. But we did well. We did
Yeah, you
well.
did. It was very fun. So, what leadership qualities, when Eric's hiring, did you teach him to look for?
Well, I like the recommendation business, but what I like best is taking people that are in the company and moving them up. You take a waitress as an example, and she becomes the head of the restaurant. You say, because you know if certain people are good. And when they work for you already, that's better than recommendation. But if you don't do that, or if you can't do that for some reason, you really need strong references, and then they have to enjoy their job. If they don't enjoy their job, they're not going to be very good at it.
So, I ended up at a table, Ronnie Barrett.
Yeah.
Barrett,
Right.
Barrett 50 Cal, is a friend of ours, and I ended up at a table with him at an NRA convention with Eric and Donald. Got to spend some time with both of them, and you're right, they're impressive. How do you raise great kids? What'd you do?
So
the grandkids are turning out. The granddaughter killed it.
We have
So much for a monster. He's able to raise great children. You know, this man's actions speak louder than all the words.
Wow.
She's a great golfer, by the way.
Yeah,
she's
a great speaker too.
She was good. She was a beautiful person in every way. She took over that whole Republican convention. And Kai, our beautiful Kai. So
what's your parenting style?
The one thing I always told my kids: no drugs, no alcohol, no cigarettes. Now, in my day, there were no drugs. There was alcohol and cigarettes, and I had a brother that went through a lot with alcohol, and he taught me a lot. He really taught me a lot. And my brother Fred, and he had a problem with alcohol, to put it mildly. And he would always, and he was quite a bit older than me, and he'd been through it. And he would say, "No alcohol. I never want to see you drink." Very strong. And he'd also say no cigarettes, but because, cigarettes are like, you don't need it. If you don't smoke, if you don't drink, you have no problem with staying off it. When you do drink it's very hard to stay off it. I mean, I've seen very strong people that cannot get off. But the way you get off is if you never start. I never had a glass of alcohol in my life. I've never had a glass of alcohol, if you can believe it. Okay. I think largely because of my brother. I think if I did, I probably would have a problem, personality type, right? But I never had a glass. I have no longing for it. I have friends that are in the wagon, as they say, and I watch them watching trays go by. The tray is going by. Oh, it's like they have, it's a thing that they can't get over with. Same with smoking. It's tough. I've seen guys just grab somebody's cigarette. They haven't had one in a long time. And to them, it's like the greatest sensation. If you've never smoked, you just don't have that problem. So I tell people for their children, no drugs, no alcohol, and no cigarettes.
They obviously work really, really hard. How'd you teach them work ethic?
They have to like what they do. If they don't like what they do, they do. My kids like what they do. And I would say genetically, I'm a believer in genetics. I like it. I'm good at doing certain things. And, racehorses, like two slow racehorses don't produce a Kentucky Derby winner, right? That's not the way it is. But you have to have an ability at something. And if you don't have the ability, don't do it. But most importantly, do something you like, whether it's your parents or not. Your parents want you to go into a business, or they want you to go into a store with them if they have a store. I would say that you have to love what you do. If you don't love what you do, it's not going to work. Yeah. I've never seen it. If you don't want to get up in the morning and go to work. Now, a lot of people say, with all the people that come after you, do you really love getting up in the morning? You understand that, right? I'm attacked at left and right. But I do, because we make so much progress. We're doing great on the campaign, as you probably see.
See, these long form conversations paint a more fuller picture of this individual. He's a fighter. You can recognize that energy, and winners recognize this type of energy. This energy where you're driven to succeed against all odds. At his status and fame and wealth, he doesn't have to do that. He could just, like he said, be on a yacht somewhere chasing after alcohol trays. But he chooses not to do that. I didn't even know he didn't drink alcohol. That's a big thing. So he knows he stayed away from those major evils like drugs, alcohol, cigarettes. This stuff can just tie you up and completely steer you away from your mission in life. There's been a lot of dead dreams out there just owed to drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, and I forgot the other one he said. But the work ethic that he spoke about, that's quite impressive.
Leading in the campaign now and doing well. We beat Biden, and we were up so far on him, and then they said, that's like a fight. You're in a fight, and they changed the fighter in the middle of the right in the middle of the fight. They changed the fighter, and now we're beating her very badly. I'd be so interesting to see her in your show because I don't believe that she would be able to answer any questions on what you discuss better than anybody else.
Well, I'm happy.
Kamala is not an operator. We've just witnessed an operator speak. You can hear it when an operator speaks. They know the inner workings. I also hear it when Elon speaks. They know the inner workings of their business. They are so passionate about what they do. It's like that you can wake them up in the morning and they give you precise answers about their process. Kamala's not like that. Kamala is more like an actor. Like it's like she was groomed to be this, to play this role. And if she's not in front of if she's not rehearsed, she just fumbles around. You should hear her speak. It's actually frustrating to listen to her speak. So I like this interview. And the host, Dave Ramsey, he's so experienced at this. He makes it look easy.
Happy to have her if she'd come.
I'm sure she would be. I'm sure she'd love to come. Yeah. She wouldn't come.
So I hear you're going back to Butler and finish the speech.
I am. I'm going to say, as I was saying.
Yeah. Right? So when that happened and you get in the car, I know I saw a clip the other day that Melania was watching on television.
Yeah.
So she saw the shot, saw you dodge, saw you go down, saw you get up.
Yeah.
And how fast were you able to get on the phone and talk to her?
Well, I know she was calling, and, it was a little tough to take a phone call with blood pouring down your ear.
Yeah.
People know the ear is the bloodiest part. If you get hit in the ear, it bleeds because there was a lot of blood. No, I spoke to her by the time I got to the hospital. I spoken to her, and she was sort of watching it. She had it held off for a couple of minutes, and then somebody called her and said, "He's okay. He's okay." She said, "What do you mean he's okay? What does that mean?" She had no idea, and then she went back and pressed it and caught up. No, it was tough for her, tough for my son, too. He came out, somebody had said, your father just got hit. And he came in and he was very, very riled up.
Yeah.
It's a tough thing. That was a tough.
That's such a Trump way of saying very emotional, very riled up.
Day, and I don't recommend it for anybody. I got very lucky, or maybe more than luck.
Yeah, if you don't turn your head and start talking about the immigration chart at the precise moment,
if
it's
I
a
don't
problem.
turn my head at the exact 90-degree angle, if I was a little off one way or the other, it's I'm not doing this very nice interview with you. I wouldn't be around to do this interview.
So when you were in the White House for 4 years, you were talking about loving your work earlier. I have the privilege of loving my work. That's why I still work.
You do?
That's why I still do it. I don't need to, obviously, anymore. It's like you don't need to. What was the most rewarding thing in the 4 years that you were there for you?
So my whole thing is make America great again. All right? That's why I do it. And we did it. Mm-hmm. Then COVID came. We did a really good job on that. So it was always about making it great again. I had the country going just prior to COVID coming in at a level that nobody had ever seen. And even if you go all 4 years, it was so good that even with that terrible interruption that destroyed the world, we had the greatest 4 years. The economy was so great. The job numbers were the best ever, et cetera. And I think just that concept of what I had done.
Just the performance.
Yeah. But individual things, getting the tax cuts approved, biggest tax cuts in history, biggest regulation cuts in the history of our country, rebuilding the military. We did a job in the I rebuilt the whole military, and then you see a lot of that military being given to Afghanistan stupidly because they left the country. I mean, and now you see them pray.
That's probably what you shouldn't have prioritized. Well, I wouldn't say that. So I think that as soon as he rebuilt the military, then they needed to get rid of him. See, oh my goodness, it's so wild. The more you learn,
Back and forth. That was, I think, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, what they did. But there were a lot of individual achievements that we had. The creation of Space Force. Space Force is now dominating space. And when I came, there was no Space Force. The first time since Air Force, 78 years, maybe 80 years by now. And we are dominating space now. And we wouldn't be. We were in third place by far. And now we're way in first place. And that's very important. Militarily, it's very important.
President Trump, thanks for taking time.
Thank you very much.
Your team told us you got a speech here in a few minutes.
I do.
We were still able to squeeze this in, and I appreciate your time. Appreciate it.
Well, that was good. I find it very reassuring that we still have people who are capable of critical thought, critical thinking, and in favor of bringing this country back to where it should be. There's so much wealth and so much wealth of knowledge, wealth of capacity in this country that we should not be going through what we're going through, considering that what it takes to actually turn this country around is not that much. It's not complicated. It's just a few things here and there that can kickstart that engine, which means that we're going to go through a renaissance in this country. There's a lot of talk about people who want to leave and go somewhere else. But I think that just like every market, if you pay attention to the market, the stock market or the crypto market, if you understand technical analysis, there's there's multiple movements in an uptrend. Let's say if the market structure is an uptrend, you're gonna have a lot of dips as the price action makes that run up to its all-time high. And if you don't understand, or if you're not patient enough, you might miss the trend because you're so focused on the temporary dip. I think that the country is going through a temporary dip, and this would be the time to start getting yourself prepared for the uptrend that's coming up, for the renaissance. But it starts with us electing the right leaders. That's a global problem. Even in Nigeria, it's also a problem that the right leaders can steer the sheep around. So vote wisely.